Betsy, it's so fun to have you here. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks, Lisa. I'm super excited. I'm a fan. I guess first time on, long time fan.
Oh, I love it so much. You're so silly. You're one of the most talented, creative people I know. I kind of picture you like 3 years old, like coloring and making like things like so beautiful from the time you were like born. Is that how it went, or what happened?
It was more like rearranging the rooms. It was constantly like a scene set. I would rearrange 3 times a week, my room, the living room. I would constantly be rearranging. I loved like moving things around, seeing how it felt, changing things up. That was like, I loved it. Like for a birthday one year, I asked for a budget to renovate my room, and they gave it to me. So, and I'm so proud of that design. It was charcoal gray carpet. It was this beautiful wall covering. Gosh knows where I found this stuff. We're talking 80s, 90s. I mean, early 90s, late 80s. Dark charcoal, these really cool, like painted flowers, and there's stuff very similar now that's available in the market. Cool lighting, like draperies. I don't know. I had it, and I had the love of it, like the constant need. I would read floor plans any chance I got. I loved like architecture books when I was young. I just loved reading plans, looking at spaces. I just couldn't get enough.
That's crazy.
It's weird.
Yeah, I mean, because I do think people end up doing things a lot of times that they didn't plan to do, but this is just you.
Yeah, it's all I have. I have no other skills, Lisa. This is it. This is what I have. Truly, I don't think I have other skills. I just love design. I love everything about it. I was just talking to, I'm on a board, and I just said to the group today, my job is easy. I would do it if no one paid me. It's so much fun.
Well, let's not tell anybody that.
I know, but like, well, I do pro bono for that reason. I think like, you need to find your life's calling, and that is mine.
That is so amazing. And so you went to school
I did.
For architecture?
Both. My first degree from Arizona State was interior architecture, so that's in Tempe, Arizona, where they don't have winter, which is nice.
Right.
That's why I ran there from Minnesota thinking.
I went to school in Tucson for a couple of years.
Went to U of A?
Yeah.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah.
This podcast is over.
Yeah, especially like the one game in the fall, right?
But then I came back and I ended up going to the University of Minnesota for architecture. So yeah, I did 2 different education, the very overlapping, but one about, I kind of say the design scale of the body, and one is kind of the design scale of the city in an urban environment. So it's like, if you think about the arc of places, everywhere from your desk or let's say your kitchen table, all the way to your neighborhood or like an urban street, I kind of got educated in all of that. So my true love is like human experiences, like where people interact with space. And that's usually inside of a building or in a place that's kind of the body scale. Does that make sense?
Wow, that's really insightful, actually. Super fun. And so you give that thought then as how are people going to interact in that space? Like that's kind of the magic.
It is the magic because design changes your behavior, right? Like even how this room is set up. It's already set up for us to do this. What if it wasn't? What if it was just a generic conference room and we had to do all this? We'd have a different conversation, right? Because there's just the workarounds, the kind of things people do in their everyday life to make whatever they're trying to do successful is really a hardship. And if you can remove that, design can really change your life. You can make, let's see, what's your dream kitchen? Imagine what you could cook in that. The same thing, like, what if you have like a sports team and they want a better stadium? Then maybe they do better because they have better things to practice on and better visibility to, screens or communication tools. Whatever it is, design can really take a problem and fix it and make things a lot better.
Wow. So you have a super successful company. Congratulations.
Oh, thanks, Lisa.
How did you get to the point of deciding to start your own firm? Because you worked for some other firms first.
Yeah, for quite a little bit. Probably 15 years after grad school, I worked for other firms. I have a great background. I worked for really small firms, and I got to learn a lot about what is it like to run a small firm where there's like 10 to 12 people. That was so interesting to learn from that. And then I worked for a really large global firm in Minneapolis, but so I got to understand kind of what a big corporate firm can offer and what that's like, and kind of the business of design, like really thinking about business performance, like financial stuff. So it was kind of, I've seen, and I have worked for a couple of famous architects too, so I've kind of seen this like arc of, the arc of how you could practice design. And I thought, well, I'd love to have my own practice, and I'd love to kind of, if you will, take a sampler platter of all the things I learned, like how do you have a really robust, strong financial business? Because if you don't make money, you can't do anything, right? So if you're not successful financially, you can't really do anything you really want to do. So how did I learn that? I learned also how to run I love a small firm because you get to know your people. Every project has like the care and attention that you want to give it because you're in a pace that makes sense for a small firm. We don't have big teams, which I think is great because then everybody that's on the team, usually it's 3 people, they all work on the whole thing. And I would say the outcomes are better, clients are happier because it's not like a hierarchical tree of like one person does this, then it's not like an assembly line. It's like we're all at the same table working on it together. So I think better outcomes, less mistakes, more impact. So I loved that part of small business practice, and so I thought I'm going to make a firm where you kind of take the best of all things and try to make a go of it, but keep it small where you can keep the things that really matter. Because to me, I started the firm with two big agendas. I want to be really happy because I love this career. But sometimes when you're in like an intense like office environment, like people, they lose sight of the magic of design because they're chasing cash and growth, right?
Right. Or running the business could take you would keep you from even doing what you love.
You can't even do the work.
Right.
And that was a big part of it. Like I missed doing the work. I love it. I love everything we do in design. The things I love least are invoicing. The business of it is a means to the end. It's not what I'm driving towards. So
Sure.
I got to do that, and I really wanted to do transformational work. I really wanted to take the time to work projects to their fullest execution and not worry so much about the financial performance of a project, which we do great, but just to get the best we can out of the project. So do great work, be happy, the rest follows, and it's worked. It's almost 8 years.
Wow. And it's kind of incredible when I look at your resume. It's like single spaced, like 5 pages long, like of all the things that you've done. Like, and I'm sure it's even outdated. Like, I mean, you've accomplished a lot. I mean, it's really impressive.
Thanks, Lisa. Well, it's me and a bunch of great people. And I also think I love working with people I like, that I respect, and that I want to hang around with. And I think that's the greatness of having a small firm. You get to work with people you like that are smarter than you and that make it happen and that believe the same things. And I think it is kind of a little magic because we have to have great projects and clients that let us push design. Because I do think we want to be the firm that people call when they want to do something really interesting or new. I think we try to do work that's pushing. We're not the best firm for like, let's roll out 12 data centers. I'm not your gal. I don't care about that. I don't even know necessarily what that's about. But if you want to do a new concept, like Forever Eve retail store, talk to us. Like that's for us. Or a new ad agency, or let's renovate this building and make it great. Like that. Those are projects for us. And I definitely think that we've been lucky enough to find great clients and that we consistently, I think, have an ability to sort of attract those clients and also clear out the ones that aren't a good fit, because I think that there's tons of great firms in this town that have a lot of diversity in what they can do, and we're just one small firm that does what we do.
I feel like none of your projects look exactly the same, which is
that's the highest compliment you could really give me, to be honest.
But you can tell when there's something kind of unique and different. I think, this might be something that
I'd love that. That really. So I don't know in brokerage what's a similarity, like this deal structure is unique. I'm not sure, but I don't know how to make a comparison, but I do think our work should look different, because if you're really trying to solve that client's problem and tell their story, how could it look like anyone else's, right?
Yeah.
If you really did your job, it shouldn't,
yeah.
Right? I think, there's a lot of work I think there's 2 ways to look at the practice of architecture. How can you do it complete, efficient, and quick to make the most money? Or you can do it bespoke, try to make it custom, try to do new things, try to grow as a team. Not that those folks aren't growing, but like their objectives are really clear. It's about something different. Mine are not to do that. Mine are to grow. Ours is to sort of innovate on product, do stuff that's custom, make the story feel unique, try not to use the same things over and over. It is hard because we work on a lot of the same kinds of projects, and it's like, gosh, I love that tile, but you kind of get it once. You can't do it again. So it's really pushing ourselves to dig deeper and try to make it feel like it's a really good project, but it's unique, but it feels quality, and it feels like there's a story. I think good design tells stories. And design solves problems, but really good design tells a story. You can feel it.
I love that. And so tell me about like a favorite project. What's an example of what you just said?
Oh my gosh, let me think. Favorite project? I will say I've lots of favorite projects. I would say a great project that we did that was retail. Retail is fun because retail has less problems to solve. It's, you know what I mean? In office, certain projects, you're really trying to solve business drivers, and that can be really fun. But there's, I'd say, a heavier kind of like intensity around solving the business case. In retail, do you know Larissa Loden? So she's a jewelry designer locally.
Yes, I actually do.
Have you been to her store that we designed in St. Paul?
I have not.
Okay, well, Lisa will go there right after this. But she's a local jewelry designer, and she has a huge following nationally. She's in like 800 wholesale, because in jewelry, that's how you really make your money, is like wholesaling around in all these gift shops and things around really this country. So she had called us and said, "Hey, I'm going to buy a building. I want to make a place," because she actually employs like 16 people that make the jewelry there. It's not made in a different place or in a different country, and then she just puts her label on it. They actually make it all there. They design it there. She's like, "I want a great workspace, and I want a really flagship store." And I was like, "Sign me up. I love jewelry. I love design." So we worked on this, and it was really an awesome opportunity to take a line that had a brand presence, but it had no physical space. So that's the best challenge as a designer, is how do you make something real for the first time, right? So we wanted to create a space that felt like her, but wasn't so connected to her style at the moment, because it's going to change. And she owns the building. That building's going to be there for a while. So how do we create something that really kind of hits on a lot of different buttons, but really allows her brand to kind of thrive within that store? And I think we did a really good job with that. So that's a really fun project. Number one, because I love jewelry. And number two, just those chances to sort of make something real the first time for a client. We've done that a lot with tech companies, and that's just so rewarding, because it's like they have their businesses successful enough to get this first space or this big space. But what does that feel like? And how do you take, their employee experience, their culture, their web presence, and make that physical? That's like the best.
Wow, that's really kind of cool.
It's the best.
Yeah, it's like, you really have the ability to, that either works or doesn't, right? You have the ability to really create what they are in a physical space. Yeah,
and it has to be good, because especially now post-COVID, what are you getting out of bed for? Like what people say, earn the commute. That's too polished for me. But what are they, taking a shower, getting out of bed? What are they doing that for? The spaces have to be authentic, cool. They have to have good amenities. They have to work. People need to do work in those spaces, and they have to represent kind of the bigger values of that organization. And I think that this is an exciting time in design, because you can't really punt it away anymore. You either have it in your space or you don't. And in Minneapolis and St. Paul, and I know you have global following here, Lisa, so just to say where we are, this market just doesn't attract a ton of new talent. We kind of just refill the tank where we're at, and that is a huge issue. I can see in design, there's not enough design talent. There's not enough design talent for the work that's in this market, because we only have a couple schools graduating, design talent. It's the same thing for MBAs and lawyers and everybody else. So it's not like a market like Chicago or even Denver, where people want to move there because they're, they don't have so much winter. Like we just can't draw it. So I do think a lot of our clients are always the pressure's on for that office, because that office space has to be amazing, because we can't lose our people, right?
Yeah, it has to attract and retain, right? It's
100%.
A big deal.
It is a big deal.
Yeah, I think as there's more pressure on the job market, and with COVID, everybody wanted to work from home. It's so what's an example of some of the things that spaces are doing now? I even think the younger generation is a little more spoiled about space, because like the college
about everything.
Well,
you can take that out.
About the apartments they lived in college were like
insane. I
know, super nice, right? Like the places we lived in college, like you had to wear your shoes all the time,
and like group showers. Like I think they would lose it. I think they wouldn't even believe it if you saw like a dorm in the 90s with like group showers and like the plastic shower curtain. They would be like,
it was totally that. It was totally that.
Disgusting.
It
like
was
army barracks,
right? And I had like 4 gals in one room with a closet in between and a stretch of like table. It was crazy.
Too. Yeah, we shared a bathroom in a suite, and we thought it was luxurious because we didn't have to go to group showers. Honestly, yes,
right,
very basic.
So then, when they go to the office and they're like, it's got to be a nice space.
I agree. I think college has changed. I think their living situation has changed. Also, their expectations are just really different. I mean, so I grew up I graduated in the middle 90s. I mean, so I'm old. But I mean, things weren't as visible. I think the transparency of like media and technology has created equity, but also it's just raised the veil on if it's not good, it's seen and people know, right? So everyone knows if it's not great. I do think people are looking for control, and I think young people have more control over their schedules. I don't think I'm a Gen Xer, so we were just programmed to work. I mean, you just did it. Like, there wasn't like, I don't know, you didn't even think twice. You just did it. You just went to work wherever you got your job, and then you just did it. It was I don't know if it was so automatic, but I mean, we were born this way. Like, that's what we do. They're not. They come at work with a totally different sense of choice, control. I do think they have a value proposition we didn't have because there's less of them, especially talented ones. And I think they know that. So they have some agency. So they are deciding, instead of this is what's happening to you, Lisa, when you graduated college. It's like, it's a conversation about what's happening. And I do think design, real estate plays a role in that. I think neighborhoods matter now more than they used to. I think it could have been, I have a cool job at X company, but now it's like, where is X company? What's that? What's around it? Do I like it? Do I like that bar? Is it a good place to eat lunch? What salad place is near that? What's the parking? Until COVID, I think parking in the Twin Cities has always been a tertiary thing, and now it's prime. Where am I parking? How much does it cost? Is it worth it? I think those are really interesting things as designers and real estate people, because this is a different thing. I, for the first time ever, was with a company downtown. They were in Capella Tower, and that's, a really tall building downtown, Class A, nice, fancy. And the folks, the staff in this meeting said, why aren't we going to West End? These are not folks on the core team. These are regular, people who work at this company. And I was like, we weren't looking at West End, but they're like, our friends work there. We want to be there. And I thought, this is the first time I've ever seen like the teams bring up real estate neighborhoods outside of like the downtown core, because that's where they want to be. Like, I'm like, the world has really shifted. Like, it has really changed as to sort of how people are making decisions and what they want. Because before, working in Capella was great, but it's not great anymore for them, because parking is a lot.
Yeah. Transit
is less of a reliable option. Food is there's all these things that have made West End look like, the paradise, and which it's great, but I was floored that these are just people who are not engaged in this process bringing up real estate that's completely not in the realm of possible for this client. But that was a key driver, and it was like, we all want to go to West End. And I thought, boy, that things have changed. And it's exciting, because I do think people have more access to information, and West End is a different value proposition than downtown right now.
Yeah.
It's just very different. So,
but it creates an opportunity, right? So
it does.
How do we give them that feel? And
yes.
But I think your point, that connectedness and being part of a neighborhood, if you're, it's like, what can I do at home in my pajama pants that or in the office that I can't do at home?
Yeah.
So it's like, what
else am I going to get if I do it?
Yeah. So you've got to offer that, I think, as an employer and as a property.
100%. And it's like, what else is around you? So we office in the North Loop, and I think we've been there, 6 years now. I think the North Loop is a very successful mixed-use neighborhood. And part of the reason I'm there is because I think it's got a good vibe for us. I thought this 6 years ago. But I have 3 or 4 of my 15 people that work with me live in the neighborhood to walk. So there is like a desirability to have work life be more connected, right?
I think so.
You have great restaurants. It's got like a vibe on its own, and then you also work there. That's a good litmus test for an employer, because I think if I can't keep my talent, I don't really have a great business, because I can only do so much, and this firm is not about me. So I would say the team is important, and geography is really, really a big deal. And I think, we've been thinking about what we're doing, and many people have no problem telling me, I'm buying a condo, so we should stay here. And I'm like, I just think that's the younger generation, but that's also the agency they have, is to voice that, hey, I own a business, or I own a condo here, so let's stay. Like, we're committed to this neighborhood, and I am too. We will stay in the North Loop, only because there's nothing really popping for me in, anywhere else that I think could pull me right now. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think that's the next challenge because the North Loop is pretty figured out, right?
Yeah.
So now what?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's exciting for when you think about design, real estate, neighborhoods, and like, what do people really want?
Yeah. And I mean, you've talked about how some things have changed, but what about design trends? Like, what are you seeing that's kind of fun and exciting right now?
Oh my gosh, design trends. Well, I think we have fully embraced plants into our entire life to the point where I looked at a drawing yesterday with my team and I was like, I can't see anything through the bushes in this drawing. Like, we have got to like clear the bushes. And they're like, oh, I'm like, the client, if I can't see it, the client can't see it. We make renderings, right, before we're actually doing construction documents, and it's like, it's so plantified that you can't see anything.
Funny.
So I think that because if you leave home, how can it be natural, soft? How can we build all this stuff in? And I would say plants like biophilia, green, has been a successful, I think we've taken it to the next level. There are now green walls that don't take like $100,000 and some serious plant people to work it. There's systems that work that make it real. Which is great because people want that, but they don't have like a person on staff to care for plants.
Right.
There are companies that do it in a way that's of scale now, and I do think authentic, real plants is a really great thing in the office, and I think that we finally have brought that to a place that's really successful because we don't want to put fake plants everywhere or plants that are dead.
Yeah, half
that's
dead.
not a great
or
vibe.
dead like next week. Yeah,
exactly. So I think that is great. I do think there's this mix of sort of high-tech, low-tech in office. So I'm going to talk office trends. That's an office trend. It's also a retail trend, I would say. But high-tech, low-tech. We're doing rooms that are so dialed into sort of the screen and how are we interacting remote. But then there's places where we're just no tech. We want people to be comfortable. We want to build teams. I think that is one of the biggest things we see from employers is they want people to come in to get to know each other and to build relationships. We proved that everyone can do great work at home, but can they really do innovative work? That last 20% doesn't really happen in a Teams call or in a Zoom. So how do we bring people together to grow engagement for their teams so they can hold their staff? How do they build mentorship and learning and then really generate ideas? So I think we're designing a lot for idea generation, which sometimes means no tech. It's conversation, it's writable walls, it's comfortable furniture. It's just things that make it feel like it's workable, but it's comfortable. I think one of the, and I think a mix of materials. So, long ago it would be white desks and gray carpet and maybe a gray accent wall. And that just is not, no one wants that. Like that just feels like it's a set of an old office, not like someone's real office, right? I think people want color, they want personality, they want memorability, like they want it to be memorable. They want people to want to come in. And if your house looks cool and your office looks stale and dumb, like, you're never going to want to go there.
Right.
So I do think creating spaces that are extremely unique, that are high touch, high accessories. We do art and accessories on almost every project. I love art. I have a huge passion for it. So we do it all the time because conference rooms now, they just don't feel done if there's not art on the wall and it feels really like pulled together, which used to be 10 years ago, 3 clients a year would do that. Now almost everybody wants that because it takes a project that looks pretty good and makes it great. It just makes it feel totally figured out and at home and comfortable and on brand and just it deepens it. So I think those are things that really make a space kind of come to life. I would say in retail, we see this need to refresh constantly, this goal of trying to create spaces that people feel really comfortable in but feel like unique and of the brand, but that the brand's evolving. I think that is really huge. We're doing so much art and accessories in retail too.
Wow.
We're doing more spaces for people to sit and relax. They can have events. Like retail is really successful still, which is great. And going to retail spaces is still successful. So it's all about going to this place and when you're there, staying for a long time. It's not like get your stuff and get going. It's no, stay. We have wine, we have beer, we have anything you need. What do you want? Like, be with us, get closer, and stay longer. And in the end, that builds a stronger bond between that person and your brand. And so we're designing that into space, which used to be retail. Was every inch is like, how much can we, cram more stuff in?
Right. Yeah.
That's changing, which is pretty great. So it's way more experience and like brand connection, less 27 sizes of this shirt to make sure everyone can get it. Right.
Interesting. Interesting. And I think, that gives you such a better opportunity to hear what your customers want. And I think that, we're hearing all the time that successful retailers know what
they do,
their customers need and want, and that changes. And I think we're all changing so fast. I know, right?
Yeah, and I think good brands know that, and they're not afraid to change. Like the second it feels comfortable, you should be changing it because you need to lead, and your following wants you to lead them too. Yeah. Like there's such allegiance with brand, and there's so much choice around that. I think it's exciting to see like how space can help reinforce those relationships and really change.
Yeah, that's super interesting. And the trends kind of went from individual offices to like everybody working on the same bench, and I mean some of that doesn't work, right? Like so, I think there's been. I mean, what's the right mix of hoteling or having your own space, or I don't know.
That's, we have gone around and around with a lot of clients. I would say the hardcore bench I don't think we're going to see that come back. I think even just on a basic health level, people were really, like that 6 foot Dr. Fauci, I'm like, well, that killed every bench sale ever because they're like less than 6 feet apart. There's like a privacy piece that you just want to kind of create space now. I think that's a good thing. I think we see a return to private offices. I do think right now we see a lot of managers, leaders coming back to work and wanting offices. I think if you're coming in, you're meeting with people, sometimes meetings need privacy. So I think we were, let's call it 2018, 19, we were in a very bifurcated, a lot of open office, a lot of open collaboration and minimizing privacy. I would say that's really switching. We want to create spaces where people can work, but really the emphasis on when they're going to get together. So closed meeting spaces, private offices, kind of really tailored meeting spaces. So you're going to go to this room because it does X. It's for Zooming. It's for this. You're going to go to this room because it's a huddle, and you're going to be able to write on the walls. You're like very sculpted, scripted spaces. I like that. I will say we have, now there's folks who for 20 years have done mobile, like all the consulting companies. Okay, set that aside. In Minnesota, Twin Cities, we have not seen a successful play to go to mobile. Nobody wants to share anything in Minnesota. If they're going to drive in, they want their space. Now, it may be less space, but it's their space, they want it, and I don't see that changing. So if they have a space, they're coming in, they can put their things there, it's theirs, no one else is using it, but then they're there to do stuff and interact. If they're going to be focused all day, taking calls, they should probably stay home. But if it's a mix, they're coming in, and they're coming in to meet with people in big social spaces that are cool, inviting, have tons of amenities. Like I've put in so much kombucha on tap, cold press on tap. I did Prosecco on tap. I didn't even know that was a thing.
I want to work there.
I know. I was like, I'm sorry. Yeah. I mean, because like that's the call to come in, right? And it's the experience. So it's a lot of that and a lot of offices. I think offices are back. I just don't see that changing.
Yeah, I think it's nice to have that downtime between, leaving somewhere and work and decompressing and, kind of having that really physical change.
Yeah.
I don't know that it's so healthy to just be working all the same and living in the same space all the time.
I would agree.
I think it works for some people, but it doesn't work for everybody.
I would say, I don't know if it works forever. I would say it's a useful tool, but I don't think you're going to get a lot of dynamic use of your office if there isn't diverse places for people to not just meet, but also be away. Yeah. And I think if we think about, we're trying to get people to come back, millennials to come back to the office. I'd say a lot of people, the Gen X 8 are back. Not all, but a lot of them are. I think we want to just see more connections. So just providing an arc of spaces for people and having ownership of space, at least in Minnesota, is a big deal. I thought we would move away from that, and we've tried with some clients, and it's a big fail.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. Well, you've got a lot of passion projects that you work on, too. You do pro bono work for nonprofits, and then you're on several boards. Yep. And is there anything interesting that you got cooking right now, or what comes to mind?
So much fun stuff. So we do have a pro bono practice called Design Forward, and we have been doing pro bono since I started the firm, but in 2018 we made it an official division. We do work for clients, and we do the design work. I'm pro bono. Then I try to ask all my manufacturers, because everybody in this industry is very generous, and there's a lot of waste. So if you think about it, like if they ran a carpet run and there was some extra, and I mean, a lot of our pro bono projects, we're not talking about campuses.
Right.
I mean, so let's say they have 800 yards of carpet. Yeah, they have it extra. They'll just give it. So
that's really,
and
it's
a win-win.
Environmentally
yes,
good.
It's a win-win,
Yeah.
and they're doing good. So it's
Yeah.
like also dull tile. If we could do a few bathrooms and a kitchen, that stuff falls off the truck. And that's probably not a good sentence to say, but like that's nothing. These are such incremental things for those organizations, but the impact is so big. So actually, dull tile had said to me, Betsy, it would be great if you could wrap a brand around this or create a different thing, because sometimes your projects are paying and sometimes you want it for free. It's very confusing. And I was like, okay, I never looked at it from your perspective. That makes a lot of sense, because it is confusing. Like, why sometimes does she ask for it for free, and a lot of times she doesn't. So we created this division within my firm, just so when we did drawings, it'll say that everybody knows that we're in pro bono, and we're going to want to ask for donations and work with our friends on that. And we have such great friends in this industry, and people are so great. And I will say, this stuff is, you can ask Benjamin Moore, they'll help you. Like, there's so many great people that will help you if you just ask, and you have a mechanism to ask. So we do, and we do often. And so that has been so rewarding. I would say one of the fun things we did in the past year was we renovated an RV for Dress for Success.
Oh, that's so fun. I think I saw a picture of that on
Into
your
a boutique, and it was so fun and so kind of challenging and sort of impossible. Our friends at Gardner built it, and I remember them telling me, what? You want to make it all tile? I'm like, yeah, I want a custom mosaic floor.
What?
They're like, but it's a vehicle. It's got to drive. I was like, well, that's not that's you can figure that out. Right? I'm like, we need it, because what's in I haven't been in a lot of these fancy RVs. We're talking like $350,000, like 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom, fireplace. These things are like homes, right? But it's all LVT, and really thin LVT, because it's a car. I guess mentally I understand that.
It's got to get
And they're
down the
like,
road.
you want to put a custom mosaic floor? And I was like, absolutely. And if we don't, it'll ruin the whole thing. So we did it. It worked, because people are magic. But that is a great transformational story. You think about this RV, and then you think about, in the pandemic, Twin Cities Dress for Success now has to serve all of Minnesota and the Dakotas, because all those branches shut down. Now this RV can do it. It can go anywhere, and now it's like a beacon that radiates like positivity. And I think, people want to be optimistic. The women that go there are trying to change their lives, and man, that space should lift them up, right? And so hopefully that's what we do.
That's so fun.
It is super fun.
That's really neat. And so how do you pick those projects? There's got to be some...
Well, you'd be surprised. People find us. So that was, a broker was on a board for Dress for Success and said, I think the only person that could do this would be Betsy, so let's call. And I was like, I'm in. I'm all in. It's all relationships. So if you have a project that you think we could benefit from, it's really hard to find not-for-profit projects to help on, because you can't just, knock on someone's door and say, oh, do you have a design project? It doesn't really work like that. So it's usually, the more I talk about it with people like you, usually real estate people are my connection, because you see things in the arc of lifespan for real estate way before we would. So if you see a great not-for-profit project, come find me and we'll talk about it. We say no very rarely. We really don't. We just like to help people. We have some long-term relationships now with Tubman, which is domestic violence, so we work with them all the time, and then NDC, which is a neighborhood development center in St. Paul that helps entrepreneurs. So we now actually help some of their startup entrepreneurs in some pro bono ways, which is really super fun.
Super fun.
So I think I have a passion for supporting women, of course, but building businesses, because I'm so blessed to have what I've built, and design can. If you started, this guy Warsami, he's got this. It's called Oasis Deli and Market, and we did one in COVID at Midtown Market, and he called me last summer. He's like, I'm gonna open my second spot, and I thought, are you kidding me, dude? That's amazing,
right?
You are. That's amazing. And he's like, will you help me? I said, of course I'll help you. But the whole thing's branded graphics, and it's so cool, because that's his whole space, and we can do that. And he said to me, he's like, will you design the menu? And I was like, you want me to figure out what you're going to make for food? That's amazing. He goes, what? No. He's like, design the menu, how it looks. I was like, oh, I was like,
that's
you
your
really
next
want
career.
me to? I was like, how fascinating. No.
Oh, that's funny.
But it is like these, if you put, a smart design around a startup, it goes. It just feels different. So we work with some not-for-profits, some non-for-profits, but it's just been so much fun. And honestly, in our office, we treat them the same. We do the same design, same renderings. Everything is the same process-wise. And we move them around so everyone gets to work on them because they're so rewarding. Because people are so grateful, but also there's such rich stories to tell. It's like so easy to tell great stories for mission-driven organizations. It's harder for like investment bankers. You know what I mean? Like, tell me the sexy story of investment bank. You know what I'm saying? Or
absolutely.
It's just so easy to talk to people who are like driven to help people. It's just so easy to design for them. So.
Oh, that's awesome. So what do you see? Do you have any vision for the future? I mean, do you love what you're doing and don't want it to change? Or, I mean, obviously we all want to grow and do more and whatever, but do you have any dreams for the future?
Well, I think I do, but I've spent a lot of time thinking about, do I get bigger or do I not get bigger? This firm. I think there's a sweet spot. I would say my greatest joy is our pro bono work, and I think that that's a gift we can do because I can run the business of a scale where we have, this is not a business, but there's a lot of fat on the bone, so we can do 10% free because we don't need to chase salaries. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so for me, I think getting much, much bigger for me, like even like over 20, I just don't see how that would help me because the bigger we get, the more I have to focus on, meeting the P&L and less on how do we have the greatest joy. And so for me, if I go back to why I started the business, I want to be happy and do great work. There's a recipe for that. And in architecture, anybody who runs a firm will tell you they're like under 18 is good. Then you've got to be kind of over 35. There's like kind of a no man's land in the middle. It's very hard. So I think, coming out of COVID, I was like, this is where we want to be. I mean, I love the team. I love our projects. We could only break it, right? And so I don't want to break it. I love doing the diversity of work we do because we work on housing, retail, restaurants, office. I love that, and I want to keep that. But yeah, I don't know. Our dreams is to just help more people and do great, tell stories, and have more fun. I don't know, because I like to have fun. Work should be joyful, because if it isn't, then fix that, because then it's not work.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And I feel like I've created, at least for me, that intersection, and I just try to keep it on track and keep earning it, and I try to work hard and deliver what we can for everybody.
So you're happy and you're doing great work.
Yeah, I would say
check
yes.
that box.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, thank you so much.
Oh my gosh, well, what an honor. I'm a big fan of the podcast.
Well,
Lisa, you're the best. And
you're the best.
You really do amazing work in charity too, and I just love that. So I've said this a million times, but Lisa, you're such a great person and you're such a leader, and I'm just happy to know you.
Oh my gosh. Thank you. The feeling's mutual.
Oh, well, thank you.